Hello everyone, how's it going? So today we're talking about God of War, and now I'm a huge fan of the God of War franchise. I platinum every single game in the franchise: 1, 2, 3, Ascension, Ghost of Sparta, Chains of Olympus, the God of War PS4, then Ragnarok. So I really love this franchise. I think it has a lot of depth and lore. I know a lot of people just see this as Kratos gets angry for the death of his family, being manipulated and kills gods, but there's a lot more layers to that in when you play through the games. But regardless, this is a franchise that I really love and is one of Sony's top performers. In fact, when God of War 3 came out, literally they had it everywhere. I think God of War 3 is still the peak God of War. Regardless, it seems that the future of this franchise may not even lie with Kratos, which is a little weird. Like, there's so many things they could do with Kratos, even though at the end of the DLC for God of War Ragnarok, it still seems that they're trying to push other characters in a way, but we'll see. So, according to this tweet from Pirate Nation, there's a leaked report. Santa Monica is reportedly developing a new God of War spin-off. According to recent leaks, Faye would be the main playable character. Tyr will have a major role, and Kratos will appear in support position. Right there, that's not a really good sign. Look, you can do spin-offs when it comes to games and still be very successful, or you can replace the main character and still have a really good story. Halo 3 ODST did this, Resistance did this when they changed from Nathan Hale to Joseph Capelli. There are a lot of ways you can do this, but whether the games will perform well or not, that's up in the air. Like, Faye is a very hit or miss character. Like, some people like her, some people hate her. I'm indifferent to her. But I don't know. It just, like, let's just face it. In the time right now, having a character like this play a major role within a game franchise where the previous person was a male, it's going to have a lot of issues, because right now in the culture landscape today, this is going to be seen as you just trying to replace Kratos with a girl boss. Even though Faye was already depicted to be extremely powerful, she went head to head with freaking Thor. She was the original wielder of the Leviathan axe. She is seen to be an extremely powerful individual. But also the idea of this would have to be a prequel, which it says the game is positioned as a prequel that moves beyond the Norse saga from Ragnarok. But yeah, it's a little weird of how they would handle that, because I guess we'll get more backstory about her and everything that transpired before Kratos' arrival. I guess they were really trying to push the idea that if they do this game, that she did really love Kratos, because that's also up in the air. Even though the studio confirmed that Faye did love Kratos, there was still that whole idea of the prophecy where she was supposed to meet Kratos, supposed to have a child with him, supposed to produce Atreus, and he would end up leading the charge with Ragnarok that would eventually lead to Odin's death. But instead of focusing on a single mythology, the game will blend multiple ones at once, including Japanese and Chinese mythologies from East Asia. This was heavily inferred since the reboot. Like, originally the game was actually supposed to be set in Egypt, and then Kratos would find a lost boy in a cave, and he would just basically start raising this kid as like penance for everything he's done. And I remember I talked to Corey Barlock all the way back, I forgot how many years ago, at the New York Video Game Awards, and he told me that all the gods are aware of all the other existences. They know about the Celtic gods, they know about the Native American gods, they know all about this stuff, but there's an unspoken rule that you do not go into other gods' realms. If you do, you will be killed almost immediately if you're found out. That's why in the end of the world, when it came to Greece, only is isolated to Greece. Ragnarok is isolated to Midgar, so each realm is isolated to their own sections and their own rules, similar to how our world operates with different laws in different regions around the world. One of the most unusual rumor features of Taken is a talking sword companion said to be Merlin from the Arthurian legend. Now this I'm very confused with. Like, God of War makes a very, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but God of War makes it very clear between the difference between magic and, like, all the magic in God of War is centered around the gods. Meaning, like, for example, Kratos has all these incredible weapons and powers, but the second Greece faces his Armageddon that he caused, he has no longer access to any of those abilities or powers because his world essentially ended. So all those powers and abilities stem from a god who gives it to you. So once that god is gone, that power goes with it. That's why he can't use his Zeus's thunderbolt anymore. That's why he can't use Hades' claws anymore. So a little weird they would use something like this because Merlin, I don't know, it just doesn't really mix well. It If the leaks are accurate, this may mark a major shift for the series by mixing several different mythologies together. It's also a little weird they would do that because, again, in the God of War universe, there is, like I stated, an unspoken rule that the gods do not invade other gods' worlds. Like Kratos is a rare example of a god going to another world. You also see that there were Greek ships that came to Midgard, but they were almost immediately destroyed or something happened to them. Guessing those gods didn't really, they weren't too kind to those regions. But Tyr is also another example. He went and walked onto other planes of existence, but I don't know how that worked. Maybe he was just so powerful that he fought his way, or he just disguised himself very well, because we saw in God of War, the reboot for PS4, that there are certain charms and certain spells you can cast in order to prevent you from being discovered by the gods of that realm. And Tyr is shown to be an extremely intelligent person when it comes to this stuff. The only reason Kratos wasn't discovered is because he hid himself so well. He didn't use his powers or abilities. He also had Faye, who was literally had a charm around their home, which prevented the gods from seeing that he was there. If he was found out, he would have probably been instantly killed. But you can see here, down here, this sounds awful. No one's asking for this. I can't say that word because YouTube. The Real Housewives of Jotunheim. If I was younger, playing God of War 2 and 26, the series would just be a Percy Jackson ripoff. You can see a lot of people are not too happy about it. Like I stated, a lot of people are very indifferent when it comes to Faye. I think one of the most, like, for me, I don't really care about her. She just kind of was there. And I always, even though the studio confirmed that she did love Kratos, I have always had hesitation with that because, again, it was all ordained by prophecy. When you have that situation in the God of War universe where so many try to fight against prophecy only to fulfill it. Here's an interesting fact. In God of War Ascension, Kratos goes to an oracle to find out a way to remove his oath to Ares. She helped him under her own interpretation that the God of War would destroy Olympus, and she was saving Olympus, not realizing Kratos would take his office and become the new God of War. So in a sense, she helped destroy Olympus. Like, this is all through the God of War universe. Those who fight against prophecy will always end up falling victim to it. Zeus fell victim to it. Odin, Kratos, everyone falls victim to prophecy. It's something you cannot avoid. It's basically an Oedipus situation. So I don't know if they're doing it for that, to prove like, hey, Faye was doing this out of the goodness of her heart. But regardless, I just don't see Faye as being a very strong leading character compared to Kratos. And without Kratos, it's a really God of War. That's the real question. You can do it like with Halo ODST with the rookie, but in the case of that game, it was still connected to the overall Halo universe, and it wasn't something that was supposed to be a mass spin-off. It was a one-and-done thing. And I'm sure there are other games that are not really... Final Fantasy X and X-2. Tidus was the main playable character in that game, but you can make the argument that Yuna was the protagonist in that game. But regardless, in the next game, Yuna takes over as protagonist along with Riku and Pain. So that's another example of a game that did it pretty well. Final Fantasy VII with Crisis Core, Zack was the main character, whereas 7 was Cloud. So it can be done, but it has to be done in a very meticulous way. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Honestly, I'm uncertain. There is a lot more rumors saying that there's another spin-off title that's going to star Atreus. The way I would do it with God of War is that I would set it after the events of the DLC for Ragnarok, where Kratos is trying to do his best as the new God of War for Midgard, but his past sins come back to haunt him. Not even with the Blades of Chaos, where they are bound to him, but in the way that maybe someone from his past comes to hunt him down. Let's face it, just because Kratos destroyed Greece doesn't mean all the gods are dead. Some of the gods did survive. For example, there's heavy reasoning to believe that Aphrodite is still alive, Artemis is still alive. There are a lot of gods in Greece, not just the ones who are the top tier of the pantheon. There are still some lesser gods that could be alive and decided they want to kill Kratos for what happened. Another, and I think this would actually be pretty profound, is that a bastard child of Kratos comes to hunt him down. Kratos has been with a lot of women, even though Lystrala and Calliope were his main family, even though he referred to him Lystrala as his wife. she was just one woman. Like, he was with a lot of women. He referred to her as his wife. She was his wife, and that was his child. But Kratos has been with a lot of women. We've seen that with the sex mini games throughout the God of War universe. He was even with Aphrodite. So the idea that he has bastard children isn't really like, it should be obvious. And one of them decided to just come and hunt him down, and filled with the same rage that Kratos originally had when the original trilogy happened. Well, technically it wasn't a trilogy because there are 3 more games. But when the original Greek games happened, that would probably be a really cool idea, like how it comes full circle. He thought that he was beyond this, that he was past this, that he's learned and evolved, even though he's kind of clung down to Greece for all the things he mislisted, like olives. But I think that would be a really cool idea. The idea that a child of Kratos is hunting him down right now for what he did to his realm, and Kratos, now that he's a changed man, doesn't want to kill him. It's a situation like with God, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I had to look at Freya. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, it's been so long. I'm older. Regardless, like with Freya, like how she was hunting down Kratos, and Kratos didn't want to kill her, and they kind of had a stalemate where she wanted to kill him, but he didn't want to kill her. That could be a situation where Kratos' child or children, like it could be multiple kids who are just hunting him down, and he can't kill them, but he also can't die because he has a job to do here in Midgar. That's how I would do it, but that's just my opinion. Tell me what you think in the comments below. What do you think about this? Would you play a God of War spin-off starring Faye, or do you think that this is just not God of War if they put her as the main central focus, even if it's for a spin-off of one game? I'd love to hear your opinion on it. I love to hear other people's opinions on it, but me personally, I'm with it, but it has to be done in a certain way. It might change my mind. Like, I've had issues when it comes to prequels, but there are games that have done it well, like Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, Resistance, Retribution, so it can be done correctly, but it has to be done in a very specific way. But that's it from me. Goodbye. Have a good day.